Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Black Eel Podcast with your hosts, Scott and Mike. Um, we're going to be talking about some trailers slash new information that we got this week. Then we're going to be moving on to the latest episode of My Adventures with Superman, then going into The Boys, and then ending our conversation anyway with the topic of the latest episode of The Acolyte, and then we'll have a character spotlight done by me this week, and we will end with talking about what's going to be happening next week, which sounds like to me it's going to be the same as it's going to be for the next couple more weeks. Obviously, some trailers might pop up and stuff like that, but overall, we know exactly what we're going to be talking about, at least up until the end of July, I believe, for sure. One of them might be done by the end of July, but My Adventure with Superman might be done.
My Adventures with Superman. I mean, there's only three
So
episodes left.
they'll be done by the end of July.
They'll be done, and then
Acolyte, I
the
think, might be the same.
Acolyte is there's five. Oh yeah, no. There's how many episodes is Acolyte? It was six, so it should be done soon.
Oh, I thought it's 8.
Oh, it's eight. Okay,
Is it not 8?
I thought it was six. I'm just used to Disney being six. I don't remember. I know we talked about it, but I'm just it's
Right.
probably eight.
And then The Boys is the usual 8. They're
Yep.
almost.
So basically, these shows are going to be running around the same. It's literally the same, anyways. So
My point I'm making is we know what we're going to be talking about for the next like a minimum 3 weeks. So let's get right into talking about. Well, why don't you go over the stuff you wanted to talk about, and then we'll go into the trailers.
So before the trailers, we have a couple of announcements that have been come up from at least on the DC side. Well, actually, it's from everywhere, but DC announced that there is a Green Lantern series in development. It is going to be an 8-episode show. It is going to include both Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Hal Jordan is going to be the veteran Lantern, and John Stewart is going to be the newbie. He's going to be learning the ropes. The show is supposed to be just lost it. They're supposed to be investigating a murder mystery in the United States. So they will be coming from Oa, arriving to Earth to investigate. There has been there's been a little bit of conversation about what can go on in this show. It's nothing really too big, obviously, but just finally starting to get some more movement on the DC side, which is nice. Moving on from that, we have a couple of announcements from Star Wars. Star Wars, as I sent you, I believe that they are recasting Balin Skull.
Oh yeah.
They are looking for an actor. They are looking for an actor in his 40s or 50s. Yep, around the same age. Obviously, they had to recast him with the way the story was going. They can't just, leave that the way it was.
They couldn't leave the story the way it was because there'd be a huge gap missing. I get that piece.
Yeah,
Just because of the build-up that they had for this character. Obviously, the idea was this guy was going to be continuing to play the character, so I get it. It wasn't like the plan was to not have him back and have somebody
hmm
else replace him. It was unfortunately they couldn't have him back.
yep. I mean, obviously, it happens. Someone passes. You can't change your plans all the time. It's sad. It's going to be tough to fill his roles. I know that there are a lot of people talking about have fan theories about who can replace him. But we'll talk about that down the road, obviously. And continuing with the um, Ahsoka theme, it has been reported that as I talked to you at the end of season 1, I don't know if you remember, but at the end of season 1, Balin Skull was looking at the mountain cliff, and he was looking at the mother, the father, the son, and the daughter, and
He
they
was
were
on the
destroyed.
father,
Huh?
but wasn't he also on the father?
No, they were looking at the towers. If I remember, it was the daughter and the son were destroyed, and the father was left. Um, it was heavily hinted that they were going to be exploring the mother,
Yes,
um,
and we saw the
which I
lightning strike.
yes, there was lightning in the distance. But that is the theory that the mother is going to be the main focus of season two, which I know I had talked about a little bit way back when it actually aired. But obviously, if that is the direction they choose to go, that is awesome. I would love to explore more into the Force and these other entities. And the last thing is also a Marvel announcement. Um, they are talking about a third season of The Punisher, and the rumor is that they are going to have an official announcement for the revival of The Punisher in August.
Isn't that when Daredevil comes out?
Is it?
No, probably not. No, I
No,
think
because Daredevil is completely being rewritten. So no. Hang on, let me see when Daredevil
Reborn.
Reborn or Born Again?
I thought it was Reborn, but I could be wrong. Oh, it might be Born.
2025.
Okay, so it's not till next year, so never mind.
Yeah.
It was
So
originally supposed to come out at that time, but a lot of things were supposed to originally come out at a certain time, and none of them are now. Um, no, you know what? That's right, because now it's Agatha, which we actually got more information on. Um, we did get a little bit more information on Agatha. Apparently, it's going to be a bunch of witches who don't have covens trying to finagle the world. It looks like. So it looks
hmm,
like the rejects of the world, I guess is the best way to phrase it, are coming together to work together on something. It is unclear what they're trying to do. My guess would be that they're probably going to make a New Salem, like I discussed in my character spotlight. Um, Although that was on my regular channel. Sorry, on here I did mention it though. So she created basically a brand new Salem that was on Earth, but like not on Earth. It was like a weird thing. Like it was like think of it like the Sanctum, the one that Doctor Strange has.
yep,
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's
yep.
in the dimension, but it's also not at the same time. I think New Salem works the same way. But I'm very curious to see how that works because it looks like we got a look at what the rest of the witches look like, and it looks like they're all of different races, ethnicities, which makes it very interesting because they're going to be adding extra cultural things as well. It looks like to the witch ability, which I
Hmm.
find very interesting.
I did see an image. Well, I didn't look more into it because I was at work at the time. But when I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw a picture of Agatha with a couple other.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was that, and again, we'll know more when it actually comes out. But it's sounding more like they're either gonna try. It's one of those things where it's either somebody's trying to kill witches, and they're teaming up to try to figure out who it is, or they're trying to find a home.
hmm,
Which either way they would need Agatha for,
okay.
mostly because I think she's supposedly, and which makes sense, she'd be the oldest out of all of them.
Yeah, most experience. So
Correct, and that's what you need, which would explain why they might have tried to break her out. But the rumor is that she didn't need to be broken out; she was already out.
hmm,
Like
okay.
she was never in it.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean, like she
Hmm.
just pretended to be. But we'll see. So let's get right into the Cape Crusader. Actually, you know what? Let's do Deadpool and Wolverine because I know it's going to be quick. It was a very quick trailer. It was basically Wolverine with a bunch of weapons in them, literally.
Yep.
Ready to face Sabretooth, specifically the Sabretooth from X-Men, the original movie,
Yep.
who looks exactly, I mean exactly like he did in the movie.
Yep.
Um,
Maybe a little bit more furry.
yeah, I think the hair might be a different style, but overall, it's like almost looks identical.
Yep.
So Deadpool basically is like, hold on, you can't just fight him yet. And he starts pulling out all the weapons out of Wolverine. He goes, people have been waiting decades for this. We need to make sure that this is done right. Which is obviously fitting and it's funny. However, we don't actually see them fight in this trailer, which does make
No,
sense.
they just run at each other, and that's all
I don't
we
know.
are.
They
Jump.
look they like yeah, and so it'll be very curious to see what happens with that. Um,
I have been seeing a lot of which I don't understand it. I've been seeing a lot of people complain about this scene because they're complaining that the CGI is terrible. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, it looked perfectly fine to me.
okay,
They were complaining that the movie has like a $200 million budget and it looks this terrible. I'm like, what?
I haven't seen anything that's been terrible so far. Plus, like the CGI stuff has not been noticeable.
I didn't notice anything.
I mean, but that's been my thing. It's like I haven't know like obviously I know that they have had to use CGI because of
Yeah.
healing factors and stuff like that, but like it hasn't been like I don't
I
know.
mean, they had to use CGI for pulling a sword out of Wolverine.
Yeah, that's my thing. So it's like it's not. I don't know. To me, that nothing I've seen has been bad yet. Um,
Yeah.
my concern more though is going to be. Um, I will say this: I do have a concern that it's just going to be very nostalgic based.
That I have been seeing a lot of that, people complaining that this movie is just going to be fan service.
But when I say that, they're purposely only showing that to get us hyped for it. So like I got to give them credit just because we only have seen what they were allowing us to see. They're allowing us to see the nostalgic pieces. We don't know what the actual nuance is going to be like,
So my thing too, though, is that the fact that they said that this movie was going to have a lot of cameos.
which
So
they
we
did
knew
not
this
want.
from the beginning. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be Deadpool time traveling. We know from experience what he does with time traveling.
No,
So,
absolutely. But my thing was just the fact of like, but it's also Deadpool, so it's like the nostalgic piece fits.
mhm.
He's breaking the fourth. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah,
they might be right. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be nostalgic based, but like that's also kind of like Deadpool. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
he's so it's like it. I got to see the whole movie for sure, but I do understand people's concerns because I do sort of have that concern. Just because I'm like, are we going to actually have like a story? But
Hmm.
I feel like we're still going to have that. It's just going to have the breaks of like humor that Deadpool does of being like, oh, wait, everyone stop. We need to focus on this right now. There is something we've always wanted to see, and it's Wolverine versus Sabretooth. Now, everyone stop what you're doing and watch.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's going to work out, especially with how passionate Ryan Reynolds is for this, and Hugh Jackman
I
is
was
for
going to
these
say also Hugh
characters.
Jackman too. So I don't have as many. I think it's just because we've only gotten the teaser trailers that it's making me go like, oh, this is all we've seen. But
Hmm.
then again, that's all the stuff that they've already kind of announced. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The only difference was that they obviously showed Cassandra Nova, obviously in the original trailer. So we at least get to see the new villain and stuff like that. But I'm very curious to see the rest of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then oh, anything else?
No, I actually just have one question real quick because it's been a while, so I don't remember exactly. But isn't technically the two Sabretooths the same character from X-Men or Origins and X-Men 1? That wasn't before the time break. That was technically the same timeline, right?
E- e- I'm gonna say yes, but I don't know if they changed it. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think it was supposed to be the same one. I think it was supposed to be the same Sabretooth. Um, and I still believe that it was supposed to be. Because that striker was supposed to be the same striker, even though obviously it wasn't the same actor.
Hmm.
So I believe they were supposed to be the same. Now, obviously, it's different because of the time change and everything, but that also explains why Sabretooth is now there because that Sabretooth doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, this is also a different universe in general. So,
Well, the X Men movies are from a different universe too, so they might make it so that's not canon anymore.
no, I know, but because you were saying it was the original, it was the old Sabretooth from the whatever. So I was
Well, because it's
that
the same actor. It's the same actor from the original,
yeah.
and it's the character. How do I want to phrase this? There was a distinct difference in the character looks from X-Men Origins to X-Men.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make it clear to everyone that it's the original X-Men, just
Hmm.
because we're getting that Sabretooth. So we're getting that kind of like real animal looking one where Victor Creed in X-Men Origins was much more human like than animal. Although you
Yeah.
could argue that he was animal too, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's just down the road, like he embraced his animal side kind of thing and just like transformed. But like,
Yeah. So we'll
but
see.
I just wanted to clarify that they were technically the same
To
Sabretooth.
my knowledge, they are still the same. I don't know if they've decided that that's changed and that they're two different universes.
Hmm. Which they shouldn't
Because,
be.
well, you say that,
But
but
I know how the Fox universe was, so
yeah, so it's like it's very tough, because the Fox universe is its own multiverse, and
mm.
trying to figure that piece out. So I'm going to go with a yes with an asterisk with saying that there's the potential that they might be different universes.
Yes, asterisk. Who really knows?
Mostly due to the fact of like I said, with the time travel and everything else in the X First Class, technically X Men Origins existed in a different timeline in a weird way. It's kind of yeah. It's you're not going to get an answer you like.
No,
Um, so then we have the Cape Crusader,
that looked
which
really good.
I have a concern about it. So first off,
Okay.
it looks phenomenal. Okay, my concern is how short these like because isn't it only 6 episodes or no, sorry, 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's 10 episodes.
I'm very curious to how they're going to do it, because they showed us a lot. So I don't know how like where we're beginning and stuff like that. So it sounds like Batman has already existed for a
Hmm.
bit of time. I would say let's say a year, and I'm being generous because it might be less, but it's definitely not been. I don't think it's been more than a year because he's done enough to cause a lot of villains to come out. Plus the fact that the everyone thinks of him as a menace now.
Hmm.
So Batman is apparently being hunted by the GCPD. He's
Yep.
also he was also being hunted by the villains. The villains we saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, was Harvey Dent, aka Two Faced,
Yep.
Harley Quinn.
Yep.
Shoot, hold on, give me a minute. Was it no? It wasn't Black Mask. There was another villain, wasn't there?
There were a lot of villains.
That's what I thought. But those are the only two that
So,
are coming to my head
nope,
right.
they showed 8 villains.
So I said two of them.
So, Catwoman,
Oh, that's right, Catwoman. I knew I forgot another. That was that was the other obvious one.
Catwoman, the Penguin,
Yep,
Two-Face,
yep. I already got him.
um,
Harley Quinn, we already got.
you already got Harley Quinn. You got so I'll be honest, I don't know if this is supposed to the image, if it was supposed to be Clayface or if it was supposed to be Strange. Because the image that I see, you know what? I'm going to text you the image that I have right now, so
I
that
don't have
way
my
we can
phone.
decipher it together.
I don't have my phone. Um,
Killing me.
no, but I think I know what you're talking about. I thought it was Hugo Strange,
Yeah, so like
but
it looks like
it
Strange, but it has like the
yes,
ink.
it looks it's like it almost looks like it's like wrinkles, which I understand why we would think it was Clayface, which it still could be,
Hmm.
but that means also, regardless, Hugo Strange exists in this, whether or not it's actually Hugo Strange or not.
Valid. So the other one is there was someone with a flamethrower, which I'm going to assume is Firefly.
That would be my assumption as well.
Then there was a person with a target on his face or something.
Wouldn't that
Uh,
be Deadshot?
huh?
Wouldn't that be Deadshot?
So the only reason I don't say that is because he's in black and is like in a top hat and in a suit.
Oh, so who would that be?
I thought it was the Question, but at the same time, that's not a villain. Um,
No, but there is a villain who wears a top hat. It. I think it's the Time guy, the Time Lord. No, t- um mm, the guy who uses the watch to manipulate time in the Batman series.
Oh,
You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I blanking on his name.
But anyway, that's the only person that comes to my mind on that one, and that's who I was thinking of when I um on that one. That doesn't mean it's him, obviously. It could be a lot of other people, but based on what I know about him, that would make the most sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Um,
And there's a heavy hint that the Joker exists.
that is, yep, a very heavy hint.
It's
Um,
not been confirmed, but we're assuming because you
I'm going.
can't
No,
have
okay,
Batman without
so
Joker. Although this is the first time we get Harley Quinn without Joker.
I like the new look that they gave her.
Well, we've seen that look already, and I do like it. And she's a much more serious character,
Hmm.
which I find very interesting. But she's also a martial artist.
That is, yes. The last villain that we saw, or yeah, potential villain,
Potential.
was a character in a red bandana that's covering half his face.
Oh, that one I don't remember. You know what? I probably thought it was a thug.
I don't recognize who that would be. My thought would be,
There's only there's one that comes to mind, but I don't like it.
yeah,
It's
uh,
Raja Ghul, but it's like he wouldn't hide his face.
and it's weird because of the way the eyes are, because like one is like half is like gone, and like
No,
I
I
don't know
know.
if you
No, I know what
can
you're
you put
talking
it.
about. It could
Yeah,
also be yeah, because it's weird because it could be Hush, but that wouldn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would they add Hush into this based on this? You know what I'm saying? So it's like
at least at the time, the time that it is.
yeah, that's more of what I'm getting at. But like at the same time, it would also make sense for like Raja Ghul to be more mysterious because he does have a distinct look. Then he might be obviously noticed in Gotham.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's tough. But I am looking forward to it. It's August 1st. All 10 episodes air at once. It means I'm going to have a busy week that week. Um, which I think is funny because I think, all joking aside, I think that's the week where everything is done anyway. So it goes from all those shows ending to talking about 10 episodes.
yep,
Uh, so anyway, that's pretty much been the stuff that's been added on to this week. So let's move on to the first episode of the shows we want to talk about, My Adventures with Superman, which showed us the other side of what happened right before Kara.
God.
Kara bumped into Lois and Jimmy.
Jimmy and the other two.
Well, I don't remember seeing the brain.
I saw him. Yeah, no, he was there.
Was he when we first saw the ship? Okay,
Yep,
I
there were
remember.
four people. There were four passengers in that ship.
Okay, but anyway, so we get to find out how they got to where they were. This is the Lois and Jimmy of our universe, um, and apparently on Earth there is martial law. Um,
No, only in Metropolis.
No, I like mine better. So, on the world, there's martial. No, it is Metropolis only, which throws me off a little bit because then Superman could go anywhere else. But whatever.
Literally anywhere else, but they just know he's going to come back to Metropolis, which is true. But
Which is not false. I get it, but it's just like that's kind of like that's a stupid thing. But I get it. So anyway, we have the fact that apparently all the mecha or not they're not mecha suits now. They're just the robots.
yep,
Um, are patrolling the streets of Metropolis during curfews. And I think their curfew is at 9 or 8.
I think yeah, it was before dark.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole idea is they're putting in a curfew and everything else. And so Jimmy and Lois are trying to come up with a plan to find and help Clark. And apparently it turns out Lois had an idea. No, wait, was it Lois? It was
It
Lois.
was it was Lois.
Yeah. To ask Livewire for help. And I just find that very funny, just because of everything else. And she agrees because of the amount of money. that Jimmy Olsen is now completely broke.
Yep, he's burned through all of his funds.
At least I will say this: out of all the purchases, this one made the most sense.
Yeah, this was money well spent.
Like, as much as I was happy that he lost all his money, this was the only
You were
amount of money.
happy about it.
The only reason why I was like not like this was the first time he used it for like in my opinion a legitimate reason.
hmm Yeah.
Um,
I mean, technically, he had, like, with the boat going to Stryker's Island, that technically was legitimate.
yeah, but I don't know. I felt like it was kind of useless because Clark was there, and like as a Superman, I understand the point why he wanted to do it because he didn't want to be left behind. My point I'm making was like this time, like they actually needed it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. Um,
Because
no,
like
I mean, it was, like I said, it was money well spent for, like, I mean, you paid a villain, but at the same time, it was,
yeah, but you got what you were paid for, really, and this was a task that was not easy.
yeah,
Uh, so the job was, and apparently Livewire and Heatwave are a couple. Um,
yep.
I also don't remember Heatwave being a woman.
No, I remember that. That I remember. I didn't realize it was Heat Wave at first, and then I remembered that it was Heat Wave when they said Heat Wave.
Okay,
But
no, that's fine. I legitimately thought Heatwave was a man.
I mean,
Um,
most iterations, Heat
no,
Wave
no, no.
is.
I meant in this show.
No, I know,
Yeah,
but so,
I,
like,
I,
it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not that unheard of for you to
no,
think that.
because he has been a man in every other rendition. I'm
Yes.
just stating that even in this show, I thought Heatwave was a man. But anyway, so yeah, so they're together, and Heatwave's like, oh, we shouldn't do this. You need to know when to walk away, blah blah blah. And so Livewire takes it, and so they come up with a plan. They use the what is the gorilla's name? It begins with an M.
I forget.
Anyway, it's him
Literally in the episode, I was like, I need to make sure to remember the name.
because I keep going the gorilla, and that's not his name. So it's I keep going the gorilla and the brain, and it is the brain.
That is the brain. Yes,
Yes, like I'm not wrong on that one, but it's not.
Monsieur Mala.
So
Mala.
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 No, I'm just gonna go Mala. So apparently they went to other dimensions and saw other versions of themselves, which apparently started fights, which made them come back to their universe. Which does make sense. Um, because that would make the most amount of sense. However, the way they looked like it looked like they went to a place that was not touched. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't a version of them that existed.
hmm
So anyway, they were back. They got the call. They were willing to help, and they break into Star Labs. In Star Labs, they had Jimmy had to use his persuasion skills to get them into the building, which is not exactly false.
I want to like so to connect the persuasion skills. Jimmy is trying to prove to Lois that not everything and Livewire,
I was going to
not
say, and
everything
Livewire.
needs violence. Because Lois wants to use while trying to convince Livewire to help them save Superman. Um, Lois wants to use the kryptonite shard that she got from the League of Lois's, and Jimmy, when he hears that, is like, absolutely not. You sound like your father right now, and she's getting all upset and trying to say like, listen, we have to do this.
Nothing
Kara is bad. She stole Superman. We need to save Clark. I need to make it right for what I did. And Jimmy, because he has a personal connection with Kara, is trying to convince Lois that let's talk to her. Don't resort to violence unless it's absolutely necessary. Necessary, not necessary. Necessary.
I was going to let it go. I really was going to let it go, and you brought it back. Um, So anyway, yes. So that's been his big thing because he wants to prove that they don't need more violence. They need to work as a team, and that he's trying to explain to her that he knows that Kara is good because he had all the
she
time. And she
she
also
so like
realized,
one of the very big things that that Jimmy pointed out that kind of is getting that later in the episode kind of clicked for Kara or Lois is that Kara Superman grew up with people. He grew up with family. He grew up with people that loved him and supported him. Kara grew up by herself, so she has no idea how to interact with people. So it's you have to be more understanding for Kara because she doesn't know how to
She doesn't know how to be
react with
human.
people. Yeah,
She doesn't know how to be human. As stupid as that sounds, it's just accurate. So anyway, it turns out that Livewire ditches the group, um, and it looks like Molly and the Brain have been either captured or
Mala.
nah, I like mine better. Um, Monsieur. Um,
I'm just waiting for you to start calling him Pinky.
no, actually, you really want to know what I want to call him? I want to call him Grodd.
I mean, yes, that I agree with, but it's not.
To be, no, I know that because every time I think about it, I go Grodd in the Brain, and I go, that's not it. Like I know for a fact that I'm wrong. Like I know in my head I'm wrong, but like every time I think about it, that's the first thing that comes up, and I'm like, that's not right. It's not right. But anyway, so it turns out they got to the ship and they started working on it, and they get into the ship and start to get ready to blast off. That's when Lex Luthor was given the opportunity to show off his new robotic army, powered by kryptonite. It looks like.
That is the belief. That is my belief, at least.
Obviously, we don't know for a fact, but it's green and it's made to stop Kryptonians, which makes me then think, it's kryptonite. So
Yep.
anyway, during all of this, they're getting ready to escape. They cannot because the robots are pretty much dragging them down. That's when a massive lightning bolt comes down, electrifies them all, and shuts down the robots that are grabbing onto the ship. And that's when we see Livewire and Heatwave coming in to save the day. Because apparently their idea, which is hilarious to me, was that was their plan all along, not saving them, but to leave them stuck in there while they were distracting Task Force X. They were or Black Ops, sorry. They broke in and stole everything that wasn't nailed down,
Hmm.
which is exactly what happened. And the difference is because they were still on the same communication channel, they kept hearing Lois cry. Their phrasing, not mine. And they decided to help out because love is complicated, um, and decided to destroy the robots so they could all escape, and took off. Now, obviously, it ends with them being in front of Kara, but there's one piece that I wanted to make clear too on this was Deathstroke is all excited because it looks like Lex Luthor screwed up. So he's like, Lex, it looks like your group, your robotic system sucks. I guess you failed. And Waller's like, you did an excellent job. And she goes, if this is what they're at like 10%, I forgot what she said. She said some sort of number. If this is
Ten
what they're,
percent.
yeah, if these are at 10% and they are able to handle two metahumans, I think is meta is.
She didn't say. I don't think she said meta, but
She
super
said
beings.
something along those lines, like superpowered beings or whatever. She used something along those phrasings, and she goes, so clearly we're investing all our funds on building this up faster because clearly there's some promise because some of these robots are still alive
Hmm.
and functioning. Not all of them, but some of them. So the fact that they're able to withstand that, she was very excited about.
And when she left, she told Deathstroke to clean up the mess. And Lex comes over and tells tells
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke exactly what Deathstroke told to General Lane, and that mommy doesn't need you anymore. So little full circle kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but I also think too, like that we also have the opportunity or the potential of Deathstroke being more of an anti-hero. Because
I'm just waiting for him to turn against them now.
I don't think he's going to be Superman friendly, but he's not going to
No,
be them friendly,
yeah,
for sure. But it also makes sense too because in Waller's eyes, which does make sense, he admitted that this stuff wasn't ready for Superman. Like he
hmm
wasn't exaggerating or anything else. He was willing to demonstrate what they were capable of now. However, it was in a very different situation, not Superman, obviously, because he knew if it was against Superman, it was going to be useless. Which, to be fair, he was not lying about whatsoever.
No.
Um, the fact that it actually did a decent amount and enough to make Waller happy is good enough for her. And the fact that she's like, if he's saying this is only 10%, I want to see 100%.
Yep.
Um, which I imagine is going to take some time. And I think the issue, to my knowledge, is them utilizing the kryptonite properly, because it sounds like that was the bigger issue. Because in the beginning of the episode, he talked about how they're trying to make something else into a new fuel source, and it's been difficult, which would explain a lot of this. So I think he has all of the tools ready to make like the robot strong enough to take out Superman, like in
Mhm.
general. But the idea is he hasn't figured out a way to utilize it as a power source fully yet.
Yep.
But I'll be curious to see how that goes. But that was my adventures with Superman. Obviously, we're finally going to get an episode after this about exactly what happens after they find her. My only thing about this episode was the fact that it ended the exact same way as the last one. However, I do understand it.
I mean, I was expecting that.
I for some reason thought it was going to be like halfway through and then we get a little bit extra, but I should have known better.
Yeah. They were building up to how they got to where they were. So I mean, it makes total sense of why it ended the way it was. Which, like I said, I was expecting it. I thought maybe they'd show like a little bit something different,
That's
like a little bit extra, like a
that's kind of what I
taste.
was thinking.
But overall, it was a good episode.
Yeah,
I have to say, so
just like a
far in,
sentence. Like even if it
huh?
was just a sentence from Kara just being like Jimmy or like something, you know what I mean? Even anything, and it wasn't. But I do understand it. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, I mean, the only thing I was gonna say was like it was a good episode. Just I think so far out of the entire season, this was the weakest episode of the season.
I 100% agree with you, but that does not mean it was a bad episode. I do
Yeah,
I do 100% agree with you that if I had to rank these episodes, this would be the bottom, but it makes sense. Like it needed to be told, it
yep,
needed to be done. I get it. I knew not every episode was going to be a hit. However, just because of the trajectory they were going in, I thought it was going to continue that way. So it was a little bit of a hiccup, but realistically, not really, because we're really ending where we were the last time. So we know it's
yep,
going to build up some more.
yep.
So
And
overall,
obviously now we have 3 episodes left because this was episode 6, so we have 4 episodes, seven,
it's
eight,
correct.
nine, 10.
Correct.
So we're getting into the end game, starting to build it up.
Yeah, we're going to get the climax between Brainiac in some sort of capacity. I don't think we're destroying Brainiac, but I think we're going to have some way of stopping him temporarily.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was my adventures my adventures with Superman. So let's move on to the next one, which is The Boys. Now this episode was the last episode to my knowledge. I think this is the only thing that was presented in the trailer that we had not seen yet.
I cannot agree or argue it. So
No, what I was going to say is I not to say that something else might not pop up later. However, to our knowledge, everything other than what happened in this episode, right? We had seen everything in the trailer in the
mhm.
first 3 episodes. The only thing we didn't see was the bulletproof chickens, which and the flying lambs, which we saw in this episode. So, although I don't know if we knew there were lambs in the trailer, to be honest with you. However, we knew there was some sort of livestock. Huh?
Yeah, they were sheep. Yeah.
Mm.
I just because you were babies, not babies, full grown.
Well, you don't know that. That they're coming up with V. Those could be babies. Uh,
You're okay. You're not wrong. I'm not.
although I do understand that, like visually, they look more like sheep than lambs. I get that. That being said, we don't know.
Oh, that was so. As soon as we saw the chest exploding, I was like, oh God.
No, once I saw that, so basically, what they were doing was they were trying to figure out a bunch of stuff, right? They were trying to figure out where the virus was. They know Newman had it, and there was only one person that they thought they could get, which I was very happy that they brought him back.
I was very happy. Yep.
I can't even remember his name now because it's bothering me. Because um, because my issue was I wanted to call him by by Elizabeth Shue's name, but that's not right because this guy was the CEO. Um, and he was also Newman's adopted father. Take your time.
Stan Edgar.
Thank you, Edgar. So Stan Edgar is back, even if it was just for this episode. Spoiler alert. And so the idea is, so anyway, they basically want him out of prison to help them find where Newman would keep a virus of this capacity, right? And so he agrees because the idea is if they get the virus, he gets his freedom. That's really what the contract was. So he gets out. He's in the thing that kills me is a guy who just gets out of prison is in the most elaborate suit possible,
Yep.
and he's got an ankle bracelet on. And to me, it is the funniest thing at the same time as the dumbest thing. I do understand why they need him, 100%. Like, there's no question that they don't need this guy. My point I'm making is the fact of like they're manipulating this guy almost as good as he manipulates people, in the sense of being like, hey, you have your granddaughter who's now a beat up soup. Maybe you should take control of her. And he's like, I'm in.
Well, the thing is too is that he was unaware of that.
No, that is also true. You are absolutely correct. He was unaware of that and unhappy about that. Because
Hmm.
once Butcher makes the comment about his granddaughter being a freak, that's when he realized that, ooh, oh, and then Butcher realized he had no idea, which I think he kind of knew he didn't. However, he wasn't 100% sure.
Yep,
He said it on purpose to see a reaction, which is what Butcher's really good at.
that's
So
pretty true.
anyway, they go to this facility.
Farm.
No, they go to the house first. Oh, that
Yeah,
is
but
part of the farm. That you're right. I forget
yeah,
that literally was all land of the same thing. I forget
yeah.
how rich people work. So to be fair, I did forget how rich people work. Okay, because the house itself wasn't that huge when you consider how much money that guy's worth. But then you realize all that land, and I'm like, okay, never mind. Also, the barn. All right. So basically, we go into the house. We go into the basement. We find out that the virus has been leaked. Okay, to some sort of capacity, it's been either destroyed or leaked. That's when Newman comes in. They all start working together. Blah blah blah. Right? Apparently, Annie's having trouble getting it up. Um, she has performance issues right now. Um, Newman tries to help her with that, and she gets punched in the face.
Yep.
Um, and with a comment that makes me laugh because she's not wrong. She goes, "Has it been so long since you've been Annie? You forgot who she was?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she
It's
gets.
completely true.
I mean, she's not wrong, but like hearing her say it is just like wow.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, we then go to the chicken coop where we find a dead scientist. Um,
A couple of dead scientists.
I thought there was only the one. I thought in this.
Okay. So it's actually overall, I think it was a couple of dead scientists, and then there was Samir, who was the Newman's husband and
He's alive. Yeah.
lead scientist.
Yes. Anyway, so they get to the chicken coop. They see a guy dead with an egg where he exploded. It looked like,
Mm.
um, and then one of the armed guards for Newman had a chicken go through him, and that's when they all started freaking out and started shooting them and realized they were souped up chickens. And the part that confuses me is the wood is apparently soup proof.
Yeah,
Blinds are
it
soup
just
proof.
won't break. Well, the funny thing is that it's like the whole situation was like they couldn't get through the door, but they could clearly get through other parts of the building. And then after the door, after they try through the like they're walking like banging on the roof, whatever, trying to break through.
Open the door.
All of a sudden, they just open the door and walk in, and it's like, what? Like,
Well,
what happened?
they couldn't break it down, but they could just open it.
But they blocked it with a piece of wood.
Yeah, but I think some of them might have different powers.
What
So
is
I
that?
don't. I think some of the sheep have different powers to have manipulated certain things to open.
Oh, you're saying like with telekinesis kind of like thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That okay.
Because we obviously only saw the flight and super strength mostly.
and wanting to
However,
devour.
which confused me a little bit, but that's whatever. That was the least of my concerns. But it could have.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, it was the least of my concerns.
yeah,
Uh,
sure.
I wasn't there. So they're running away from they're running away from all these sheep and everything else, and they're doing all this stuff. Their genius idea is to inject the virus into the dead body.
Their
Throw
last virus sample.
Yes, sorry, very specifically the last virus sample. They then throw the dead body outside, have the sheep grab it and eat it, and then they will die. That's their plan. However, Mike already discussed that the sheep open the door with their powers slash teeth.
Wait. I just answered my own question or my own concern because they when the sheep started going on the roof, they probably did not put the piece of wood back on the door so the sheep were able to just walk through the door after they threw the body out the door.
I thought they threw it out the main double doors and didn't realize there was a side door. I thought they didn't know there was a side door because I thought they threw it out the main door, right? Then shut it, closed it up.
Okay, it could have been the side door. So to be honest, like I just when I was watching it,
When the sheep came in, it was the side door for sure.
yeah. So I didn't realize that. So my thing was that because in my head, when they started like banging on the roof, they were turning around and spinning, so they just got discombobulated and was like not facing the main door anymore. So and the sheep were able to just walk in because they weren't paying attention. They were paying attention to the roof caving in.
No, so
Um,
the door that they were using, which was the main door, was latched shut.
hmm,
However, all of a sudden they hear the noise to the side and they all turn and the door opens. That's when they run to the main door, open it up, push the wood away, and then escape.
yep. Okay.
And
So the whole telekinesis thing is kind of out the door too.
well, they opened it very still easily. That still could have been the case because it wasn't the wood that was there, but it was literally a doorknob, and they didn't break it open. They just it
Okay.
sounded. Not to say that that's what happened. They could have done it with their hooves or their teeth or whatever. I don't know. They could fly, so it's not like it's that far fetched. Either way, they were able to get in, and they start running. And while they're running, that's when the sheep start to die. And then the scientist disappeared.
They eat one of the last security guard while running.
Yeah, they did eat him. Yes. And
Her.
her. You're right. And then they found the leg of Amir.
Samir.
Samir. Um, and so it's assumed he's dead. And Newman helps her father escape prison,
Yep.
which I find very funny. And then and I'll discuss this in a minute because I want to talk about the boys really quickly. Um, Ashley gets her boyfriend is dumping her
The the TV star news host breaks up with her.
because she's not the real CEO and he needs a real Dom.
Yeah.
And that's when her and A Train are working together better, in the sense of not that she wants to by any means. However, he's basically forcing her hand to have to help him because he's telling her everything, and she can't just say anything. Like she can't just tell people. So now she has to work with A Train, which I find hilarious. And so her big plan is, which I find hilarious also, is to frame that guy to be the leak instead of A Train, which
Hmm.
makes sense for sure. During all this as well, we have Ryan scare me half to death because he's now torturing people.
Yep.
Uh, Apparently, they're working on a teen TV show, and Ryan doesn't want to be a part of it. And so Homelander's like, if you don't want to be a part of it, don't be a part of it. Because Homelander's now on this kick of being like, you know what? I've been manipulated all my life, and I don't want to manipulate you. You do you. However, he still kind of I feel like he was still manipulating his son.
He's manipulating him to be more sick and twisted like him, while giving him the ruse and disguise that he's actually being a caring father.
Which, at the same, all joking aside, I also do feel in Homelander's way he is in his mind being like not trying to manipulate him. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
really truly believe that Homelander is not trying to manipulate his son now. He was in the beginning for sure, but I think at this point in time, when we see him like talking to his son about what the punishment should be, I don't think that's manipulation. I think he's just suggesting something. And I know that sounds weird. I don't think he was like doing it to try to persuade his son, but it's more the fact of like, you make the decision. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just giving you this.
Yep.
And so anyway, the basically the James Gunn of the Vought universe gets beat up by an intern, a female intern
Who
who,
he was making moves on.
yeah, who was definitely sexually harassing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she just I think the funniest part of that whole scene, and not that any of that is funny, like sexual harassment is not funny. However, the funny part to me was it looked on her face like she was very hesitant to do so, and then she got real into it real quick.
She was nervous at first because she didn't know what was going on.
She also didn't know what
And
happened, and then she started slapping him and didn't stop. And she did not hold back. She did not hold
yep, nope.
back.
As she doesn't need to.
And then we have the seven meet together along with the two guardians
Mm-hmm. Having a meeting of
to
the
discuss
future.
discuss the future, but also the leak and how
Mm-hmm.
they are no longer honored heroes but wrathful gods. And that's when they beat up the news executive to death.
Yep. And also what we point out too that the Deep is trying to, because he's pissed at the news guy about the story that he did on him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna sleep with your wife tonight," and it whatever. And I don't remember exactly what the news guy says, but
There's
he
something
like,
along the lines about I believe it leads to the part of alluding to the fact that he's sleeping with the octopus.
oh yes, he would leak the story of the octopus, right?
He doesn't say it
And
that way. He doesn't say it that way. He says, "We'll talk about the thing in your closet." It was
yep,
something along the lines where it was heavily hinted, although not
no, it was the eight tentacle thing in your closet or something along those lines.
the eight-legged thing in your closet. Because I don't even think he used the word tentacle. Like I think he was
Um,
very cautious of what to say.
so when they finally were beating him to death, the Deep turns around and he's like, "I'm still gonna sleep with your wife tonight." It's like,
Yeah, the deep
because
is.
like that's the only way you're gonna get to people, stick it to them.
But it also makes the most amount of sense why, like the deep, like nobody's questioning that this guy was the leak, just because of the fact of the deep not liking him and Homelander just assuming like once my people get the right stuff, we're good
Yep.
and all that stuff. So, A Train and Ashley are safe for right now. Now, the other piece that I want to talk about, okay, is
If you're moving on, are you moving on from this part?
yes, I am. So say something.
So I want to point out that I still think Sister Sage knows that A Train is the leak, because she hinted at it that she knew it was him before, but because now Homelander made the decision that he knows who it is with facts, I think Sister Sage still knows it's A Train. It's just they're in the clear for the time being because there's no.
Here's my thing. I think she knows but can't prove it.
Exactly.
So because she's made very accurate statements in the sense of like because at one point in this episode, Atrian's like, "Oh, I'll help you with the leak." And she goes, "Well, it's not like the information would have just run out on its own."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So she was heavily hinting that she knows, seeing his reaction, and although his reaction was there, I don't think it was enough for her to be like it's him.
Yeah.
But I also think she's utilizing it because it works for her plans.
Mm-hmm. She plays the long game real well.
She knows the long game really well. She also has been trying to get Homelander to like express anything so she knows where his head's at, and he's not. And it's really messing with her because she can't plan if she doesn't know what's going on. Because he's a
Oh,
wild.
you're just talking about like in general, like what his thought process is.
Well, no,
I
I'm
was
talking
gonna.
about this particular episode because at one point she's talking to him, and I want to say it was after he came back from being home, because she made a comment about like, oh, how was it visiting home again? Like, do you feel reset or something? And he's not saying anything. And I think at that point she's real like she needed to feel where he was, and she wasn't getting a feel of it, so she's being extra quiet. So because once she found out she didn't know where he was mentally, she stopped talking because she now doesn't know where things are playing out, and so she's waiting to figure out what's going to happen. So she's going to wait until she knows what the next plan is. Because she's so intelligent, but Homelander, and she's said this multiple times, is the only outlier of her plan because
Hmm.
he's been lately doing things that have been outside of his character that she's not been able to predict.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Um, but yes, I also agree that she does know. However, I don't think she has either enough evidence or she wants to play it off without a problem.
Yep.
So then we move on to Butcher. Apparently, Butcher's former coworker is really trying to get him to work alone, and apparently, Butcher cut off uh, Samir's leg to make it look like he was dead, and had him tied up, chained up in the barn.
And is convincing and told him he has to continue his work. And he's like, "What work? You're gonna make a virus."
And there's something key in this. I think that guy doesn't exist.
I think so too. I think it's in his imagination.
So I do think the guy existed at some point in the life.
Hmm.
Like there, like this guy did exist. However, just like his wife, I think he's hallucinating.
I agree. Because anytime we see him, he's
Well,
either by himself.
we
It's
didn't
just
notice. We didn't notice right away, and it
yep.
wasn't until this scene where he's talking. He said something like "we," and the guy looks behind him. The scientist looks behind him and is like, "Who are you talking?" Like as if there's nobody there, which makes me really question. And also the rabbit scene where the rabbit has the tentacles come out of him. I think that's Butcher right now
Agreed.
because I think that's the cancer. Because I think that rabbit had cancer, and that's what grew. And I think that's what's inside Butcher, which is messing with his mind. And his mind was originally showing his wife, who now is no longer around, if you notice, and is only
I mean, I think she's still around. I think it's just depending on the because I mean, there's been instances where the wife has been there, and then they got the C whatever CE or not
his partner,
FBI.
his ex partner.
Yeah,
CIA is the
CIA.
um and so yeah, so I'm very curious on that piece. I'm wondering if we're going to see it or anything else. So it sounds like Butcher's going rogue, which is not atypical
To
of what.
be to be expected.
Yeah. However, it's being done in a way that's crazy even for Butcher because he's talking to people that don't exist. Um,
Hmm.
potentially, we know for a fact he talks to his wife that's not there, which would make us really assume that this guy might not exist either because we've never seen him around anybody else.
If when we've seen him around other people, but it's not like that he's the guys had conversations because like we saw them sitting on a bench in a park.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that he was there because people were walking by. It's not like he interacted with other people. The only
No.
time we
No.
saw him interacting with other people was the scientist while he was chained up.
And the scientist made it allude that he was talking to himself in some sort of capacity, or that this guy wasn't. There was nobody else there,
Yep.
which is kind of cool in that piece. Yeah, I definitely like this episode. This episode was really cool.
Nope. Very important. The hospital scene, the emotional
Oh, I'm sorry.
roller coaster of the hospital.
You're right. Huey, and Huey had their own storyline. So Huey Senior has superpowers now. He's having because apparently he was brain dead, or the thought was he was brain dead, and so because of that, when the V worked, his brain's not fully there all the time. And he apparently has the ability to phase through physical objects.
So I think his brain is there. It's just he remembers from like whatever Alzheimer's. You don't remember everything. You remember from
So
us.
I think
I
he
think
was
he said Huey was 8.
yes, but I also think that part of the issue was his brain was brain dead for a bit.
Yeah.
Thought is his brain was dead, and it was brought back to life, and because of that, memory is kind of wonky. So he was
Mhm.
going back and forth to different timelines because he did sort of remember certain things and then pop back to normal, like or pop back to his old the he would go in the past mentally and then go back to the present and then go back to the past.
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't go with that. Go with that. He woke up, he remembered everything, but then when his mother left, he said, "Oh, where'd your mom go?" And he said that she went to go get whatever drinks or whatever.
Yeah, what she said.
And then that's when we started noticing that his memory was gone because when we came back, when we came back, he was missing. He killed someone, and that's when he didn't recognize Huey.
Yeah,
And the last thing he remembers of his wife was that she left all
and,
those years ago.
and he was
And
gonna.
at that point, that's when he doesn't remember anything.
No, that is true. That is true.
And he doesn't remember everything until Huey brings up all of their important life things. Or no, 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 has a heart to heart with his dad
Yeah,
and tells him that he's his hero and that he loves him and whatever. And that's when
blocking
it,
his dad from his mom. That's a very key piece there, though.
yes,
He legitimately was in between the two of them.
yes. But as soon as he did that, that's when his memory came back, and at that point, that was it. He remembered, and even like when he was getting ready to die,
No, no, no,
Huey
no. We're
was.
not going there yet. Stop. I want to talk about all the dead people he phased into. Um,
Well, my point was that like at that point, Huey thought that he was forgetting again, and then his dad was like, "No, no, no, I don't worry, I'm here, I remember," and you know,
yes.
but yes,
Yes.
killing people.
All joking aside, like he phased through a bunch of people, like literally phased into somebody and then twisted his way out.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was that was so weird.
I couldn't stop watching it. I was just like, oh my gosh. And he kept turning. I was like, oh my gosh.
And then when he ran through, like it would phase through again, you just the intestines come out.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a lot of death and everything else, and then Huey uses a cocktail to kill his dad. Um, and it was a very sad moment for sure.
Yeah,
And
that was very honestly, I got a little teared up with that. Not like it was like a little like it was sad. It was
I,
actually like
I really thought that his dad was going to wake up and kill the mom, and I'm like, please don't let that happen. Please don't let that happen.
yeah.
No, just
No, I had a little bit of worry, but I mean,
because there was a certain thing that was dragged out that I was like, ooh, they're building up to something. I'm like, please don't build up. Please don't build up. Please don't build up. And then he died. And I was like, oh, thank God. Only because I had a fear because if he woke up again, the likelihood of him remembering was slim. That was
oh
more
yeah.
than I was making. It wasn't so much of like his dad would have woken up and just randomly killed the mom. No, he would have forgotten everything that happened, saw her being like, you left my son. And
Yeah.
then, but yeah, so that was the end. Um, yeah. Yeah, it was messed up. It was a messed up.
No,
Um,
that was an emotional ride there. Like
it was
that I
like
like
also very gruesome. Like
oh yeah.
honestly, I don't know which one was worse the phasing through the guy in the hospital bed or the sheep. Like really, it's tough because they both were equally grotesque.
Yeah, this was a gory episode.
Yes, so we're really more in boys' territory for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But yeah, so it was a great episode. Blah blah blah. Anything else you'd like to discuss? I mean,
No.
honestly, there's what 2 episodes left? No.
Oh wait, oh no no. So at the convention, they took a dig at the MCU with the multiverse of the Vought universe.
No, 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 no. They didn't. Oh, they didn't mention multiverses does not exist. They were talking about all the phases. We have phases from
Yeah.
7 to 32, all
Yes.
planned out.
Yes.
That's what it was, and
Yep.
so that was the dig at. In my
Well,
personal opinion, that was
no,
all.
there is multiverse talk because they were so on Twitter they were posting all of the images of the so-called movies coming out, and there are multiversal movies. So like one of them was like a multiversal A train where he travels to different dimensions and encounters different A trains, and he's supposed to be playing all of the different universes A trains. So they were talking about the multiverse as well. Again, digging at the MCU.
hilarious. No, because as soon as I saw that in all of the different like branches, I was like, "This is hilarious. This is a huge dig at them," and I'm like hilarious about it. Also, didn't know that the Deep had a TV show,
Yep. Yeah, no, they talked about it a little bit. I mean, but
but I didn't realize it was still on. I thought it got canceled because of all the other stuff, but apparently it's still
agreed.
going on. But I think it's a Vought Plus exclusive now, so it's not on regular TV.
Hmm.
So, because of the controversy. Um, which is even funnier. Like I can't, like the thing that kills me is it's like we got everything planned up for Vought TV, Vought everything, like Vought this, Vought News, and Vought Plus.
That
Although
was a
actually,
good chuckle.
I'm trying to say I don't think it's called Vault Plus. I think it's called V Plus,
I think it's V plus. Yeah.
which is even funnier to me. Anyway, so yes, no, it was a heavy dig at the MCU for sure, but they're doing such a great job of it, like satire at its best.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was a like you said, this was a good episode. They got a good satire. They got good emotion. They
But
got good
I knew it
gore.
was going to be a dig at Disney because it was V56 or whatever, and it's supposed to be a dig at D, like Disney.
D23, right?
No, it was D24
Or
this year.
it was okay. Yeah. Okay, I didn't realize that there was one this year yet. Okay.
Maybe there hasn't been, and I'm just making assumptions. Um, but I do know what you talk. We do know what we're talking about, though. The idea
Yeah.
is the dig at that. Also, the fact that like they've been doing shows right from the beginning, and I don't think I realized that. Like
Hmm.
the moment they started movies right away.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I didn't realize for Vought anyway. But first off, it makes sense, but I just wasn't prepared for it. So they have like a literal, legitimate franchise that's been going on for 56 years.
I mean, we knew that because when in last season, same thing. Soldier Boy was a movie star.
Yeah, but I don't think I knew they were all connected
Oh, and then in terms of that, okay,
because I didn't think they were
fair.
connected, but obviously they are, which threw me off. But not that doesn't ruin anything at any means.
No,
I just was like,
it has no impact on the actual story of this.
not even a little.
So,
So yeah, so all that piece too. But yeah, no, I'm very curious at the rest of it. I'm really curious where the rest of this season is going to go. And I'm hoping we get to see Butcher's new power that isn't his.
hmm. Yep. That's gonna be. We'll see.
And
It's gonna come out of his body at some point. I mean,
I also think he's going to live
oh yeah, definitely think he's living.
because well, no, I think he's not going to have cancer anymore because
Yeah.
I think the virus is going to kill the V,
Hmm.
which is infused into his cancer, which is actually going to save him.
Exactly what I was thinking.
I think he dies in season 5 personally. However, it's not going to be of cancer.
He's go Like we said. So the showrunner said that season 5 is the end of Butcher and Homelander, which means.
That doesn't mean they're both dead necessarily. But
So here's the thing. Like if you like Homelander has to die. Homelander has to die.
here's my thing. I 100% agree with you. You can't. There's no way that they can stop the boys if Homelander's alive. They
Yep.
could technically with Butcher alive.
But here's the thing, because in terms of if unless they mean it in a certain way where it's like this is the end of Butcher and Homelander's story, because in the comics, once Homelander's dead, Butcher then turns his sights on the other suits and tries to kill everyone else. So it depends on what the showrunner means by this is the end of Butcher and Homelander, as in like their combined story, or
Separately.
the end of them both.
Well, that's the other thing.
Because
I agree
because
with you that-
unless Butcher is dead, he's not stopping.
No, agreed. And my whole thing is it's like I think at the very least we're going to have Butcher be I think Butcher's going to be no longer the boys after this for sure. At the very least, right? If he's not dead, he's going to be exiled for sure. However, he's not going to not have a part. I just don't think he's going to play a major role like he's done now, just because of all the stuff that's been going on.
Mm.
I think he'll pop up time to time, trying to kill soups and stuff like that. However, I do get your point, but Homelander does have to die.
Yes. I mean, like, I guess technically they could put him on ice like they did Soldier Boy, but I wouldn't. I mean, you They would be stupid.
No, I agree. And it sounds like they're not doing clones.
No, no.
The,
The showrunner said that he didn't want to copy the comics. He thought the cloning was kind of niche, so he wanted to do his own thing.
he also the way he made it phrase it though, he thought that technology was too far advanced for what's in
Also
play.
true. For what their universe is, didn't make sense.
And I do agree
Hmm. Yeah.
because there's been no inclination of it. Um, Not to say it hasn't existed at all, but I'm just saying like I feel like they're not anywhere close to that yet.
Yeah.
Which does make sense, and I'm not by no means I'm not mad about it at all. But yeah, that was the boys. Anything else you want to add before we get to the acolyte?
Now let's get to this wild, wild episode.
So this is the weirdest thing because I did this on my own channel, and this was a very difficult thing to talk about because, as weird as it sounds, a lot happened, but not a lot to discuss. If you understand what I'm getting at. Well, no, no, no. What I mean by this is, hear me out. Is like describing what happened. It was legitimately just the Jedi fighting the Master, losing, right?
Badly.
No, no, badly. I know, but what I'm saying is, it's like when you think of like story and talking about all that stuff. Realistically, it was the fight. His mask comes off. It's revealed who he is, which is Khmer.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
He then goes on a rampage, kills the apprentice of Soul and Yard, because they were the last.
Yord.
Yord, sorry. Yeah, Yard. Um, those were the last two that were killed of him. Soul lives, escapes, right? Obviously, there's more stuff, and we're going to talk
There's
about it
more
more.
to it. Yep. Yep.
But what I'm saying is, like, basic stuff that you need to know what's going on, right? Is like,
Yep.
first off, phenomenal, phenomenal fight scenes,
Oh. Oh my God.
which we'll talk about in a minute. Um, so anyway, we see all that stuff. Mai and
OSHA.
Osha switch places, although not by Osha's choice. And it looks like the Master might be working with Osha, and Soul's bringing Mai to Coruscant. And that was pretty much the episode. Now, I know there was a lot more that happens, and we'll go into more detail about it, but I feel like we needed to express those ones first, like the main story, which was
There was
just
the plot.
literally that was the plot. That was the whole episode. And like, although it was phenomenal, it really wasn't a lot, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Although that being said, visually, it was a lot. And it was awesome. So
So
now
I made sure that in this episode I took notes. So I am prepared.
So before
um,
we go on to this, there was one thing I want to mention. Somebody commented on my video saying that this was the worst fighting I've ever seen. This is the worst fight scenes ever. And I was like, I personally disagree with you. This was by far the best fight scenes I've seen in a long time. And the reason why the Jedi lost was because they were naive to the fact that anybody could be trained as well as them outside the Jedi Order. That's exactly what I said. And I'm just stating, like, I still agree to that. Like,
mhm.
these guys were, because when we see Soul and Quimir fight, there is a much more even-ish fight to it. Okay. That
Okay.
being said, I think the reason why he defeated the others with such ease, although I think he still would have, even if they were aware of the situation, he still would have taken them out. However, he wouldn't have done it with such grace and ease had they been like, oh, this guy is actually somebody who's a problem.
So here's the thing though with that is like those other Jedi, I don't think just in general were as
Or as
experienced
powerful.
as Soul.
Correct. I also agree.
So Soul was able to hold his ground because he has more experience, not fighting Sith, because obviously he still didn't realize that this guy could potentially be a Sith. I want to say potentially because we still don't know he's officially a Sith.
No, that line messed with me though, because it was just of the fact of like, I don't have a name. But I guess the closest thing your Jedi have to a name for me would be a Sith. And I'm just like,
So
so
I want
maybe
to
there is a
so I
name.
want to branch out to that because like apparently there's an actor saying that I think it was either an actor or one of the writers said that he is Sith, but the theory is I don't know if you noticed this, but when his face was revealed after Jecki knocked his mask off, Kylo Ren's theme music played. So the thought is that the fans' thought right now is that this was the original Knights of Ren. Because Knights of Ren was an organization of, dark side users that worked for Ren, and they're thinking that this is the first Ren, or at least like we don't exactly know who Ren is. Like it could be a weapon, it could be whatever, a title, whatever.
First time we're seeing the
The organization,
yes, the Wrens when they were originally existed.
yes. So that is the current thought: is that this isn't a Sith, it is a Knight of Ren.
But it's a dark user, dark force user,
Dark side user, yes.
dark side user. Sorry.
So that is the original thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to dispute that at all. I just like the idea of him being like, I just got bored and I want to do whatever I want and I can't do it with the Jedi
Yeah.
around. And I'm like, to me, that was enough to be like, damn, like you win. You know what, you win.
So I wanna ask a couple questions for you. Well, actually one. Um, the armor, because obviously in this fight scene, which is absolutely crazy, blocking the lightsabers and just disrupting them. Do you recognize what that armor is and where we've seen it before?
Well, I thought it was Veskar. No, what's it called?
Beskar, Beskar,
So I said it right.
with a B.
Oh, Beskar. Sorry.
Yes,
Um, which is the Mandalorian armor, is it not?
it is
So,
not. No, no, no. The Beskar is Mandalorian armor, yes,
all right.
but he was not using Beskar armor.
No, because I thought it was breaking off too easily.
It is Cortosis. So Cortosis we saw in the Thrawn, you and me saw in the Thrawn books
Oh,
when Vader was in the flashback when Vader was Anakin was going um to the Confederate facility on what I don't remember the planet name, but he ran into the Count Dooku associate, and they were infusing the Cortosis armor into the droids. So when Anakin
oh,
and anyone with the blaster was attacking the droids, the attack just did nothing.
okay. So, all right. To be honest with you, no, I would not have put two and two together on that one. Um, However, that does make sense. My whole thing was I kind of figured it wasn't Mandalorian armor just because of how easily it was breaking apart.
Hmm.
Um, but that being said, wow, that guy was really powerful. Um, I love the shish kebab.
That was my literally my next question. Like that death was so crazy.
My whole thing was he was just like, and like that alone, I was like, okay, that's fair. Like, eh, no offense, anybody can do that. Like, I don't mean just to doubt his skill or anything else, but we've seen that. But then he goes like this,
Pulls him
and I
in,
was just like, oh, two for one.
and then decapitated them both.
Yep, 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 yeah.
Um, I mean, just in general, like I want to know what your reaction when you saw Jackie die.
Okay. So my whole thing was the fight scenes were phenomenal. I loved Jackie getting the double lightsaber, right, swinging around, and then the Wookiee's lightsaber being destroyed, and then her teaming up with Soul to fight the master, and then the mask comes off, and that's when she gets stabbed three times. And the moment she got stabbed, I knew she was dead.
Obviously, yeah.
That being said, I was shocked because I wasn't expecting her to die so soon.
When I saw the death, like as soon as because I'm like seeing her go into this insane offense. Which another thing is like
She
people.
was better. She was better than Yord.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
She was
Um,
actually doing better than most of the Jedi, to be honest with you.
uh, so like there's a thing going around that seeing, and I kind of understand it. People were saying that they wanted to see, like her fight style was what they were hoping to see Ahsoka do in her show. Because that's
It makes sense because she was
yes,
very Ahsoka-like for sure.
exactly. So I can understand that, and I mean I understand the reasons why they didn't do that, but
I think it worked better. I think the issue I have is it worked better for her, like Jackie, because of her size. Ahsoka's now
mhm,
older now, and I don't think
Yes.
it would work as well. Nothing, not to say she physically couldn't do it, because we see Yoda bounce around at 999, but I think size does matter in that piece, and I think because of her size now, like I'm talking about Ahsoka,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
she'd be using too much force and energy into doing that, where it would be useless. Where back in her prime, when she was younger, it would be perfect because she was lighter, she was easier to maneuver around, and it wouldn't waste as much energy.
I
However, she
agree.
hasn't been as skilled to have used it either. So it's like
Hmm.
catch 22. But Jackie, on the other hand, skilled more than her, I would guess. At when you look at them at the same age,
I mean,
I
I,
it's
I don't know. You can't really compare it at the moment.
because it's very two different teaching styles too. Because Jackie's being taught in the more traditional sense. Ahsoka was being taught by Anakin, which is atypical.
See, the thing is that Jackie, they both went up against powerful Sith lords, Sith, potential Sith. Uh,
Dark youth.
Ahsoka, dark side users. Ahsoka went up against uh, Darth Maul and held her own,
Yep.
and Jackie went up against the Stranger, the Master, whatever you want to call him.
I also like the fight scene between her and Mai as well, because that was the first inclination of her fighting skills,
Hmm.
which I thought was really cool. And then obviously she
Um,
fought the Master. She was the one that knocked the mask off.
yep, she broke the mask off. Yep.
And that's when we found out who it was. And I think that shock alone got him to get Jackie.
I mean, Yord too, because as soon as Yord saw that it was him, he was like, you, and that threw him off his game, and that's when and which also, both those deaths, like all those deaths, I was like, oh, this is, like, all the Jedi getting killed, I'm like, this is insane,
Well, I
we
was
knew it
like,
was coming,
my first
but
thought was just like, okay, they have all these Jedi, so we can have a lot of deaths without killing the main characters. And then we killed them, and I was like, okay, so I guess we're going with like we gave us some buffers, and then we went, let's just kill them. And they,
yeah,
and I was just like,
everybody. No, as soon as, when I saw Jackie die, like I'm going through the fight, I'm like, this is like I was glued to the screen, and then she gets stabbed. I'm like, and then Yord gets taken down, goes down to his knees. I'm like, okay, then it's instant neck snap. I'm like, oh,
I was thinking like, oh, he's gonna play with him a little bit, like to mess with Soul to get him to go nuclear, and then he just goes, nah, done, next. And I
and
was
literally just tosses him. And then when he kills Jackie and he goes Jackie, he goes, oh, is that its name? Just completely disregarding her as a being at all.
mm-hmm.
And then, Soul, going like I mean, he had a point where it's like she was just a child and you brought her here. What do you
Yeah,
want from me?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, in Soul's defense, he was just going there to arrest Mai, not face off against.
I mean, to be fair, I 100% agree with you. But this also, Soul went to the dark side for a second.
That was my next bring up point, is that when fighting the Stranger, because when I was watching on Disney Plus with the captions on, the caption was calling him the Stranger.
So the
Um,
Master,
so I'm going to refer to him as the Stranger. You can refer to him as the Master.
or Kumar,
Um,
we can call him Kumar.
whatever. That one's a little bit. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm going to stick with the.
Q.
um,
We'll call it 007 Q.
yeah. So when he was fighting the Stranger was instigating him. He lost his temper after Jackie died and was going like lost the lightsaber, punching him fist to fist combat, which is even like that was also crazy. Just the hand to hand combat was.
The hand-to-hand combat in the series has been incredible. Like, nothing against other Star Wars shows whatsoever or movies, but like, it's rare to see lightsaber users use hand-to-hand combat because it's always been lightsaber
Sabers.
only.
Yep.
And not to say that they don't use the Force and everything else, they do, but we rarely see them get physical.
The closest hand to hand combat we've seen, to my memory, was in episode 3 with Anakin and Obi-Wan, where they were lightsaber fighting, but they were still punching each other and kicking each other.
Yeah, but I think, like, yes, back then it was like a huge thing, but I think now it's like minuscule.
Oh, compared to this, no. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think there were some physical actual attributes to the two of them fighting.
No, there were, but like it wasn't to this extent, obviously.
No, no,
Like
no.
this was legitimate, like hand to hand combat.
It was more of like a punch or a kick here and there. I
Uh,
believe you're correct on that one.
but this was obviously like Soul, like you said, was going into his dark side, which they hinted that he had a history with it. But OSHA broke him out of it when she called his name,
Yeah.
and he told like how like the stranger said like, oh, you have a history with this, you know, embrace your dark side kind of thing. And after the stranger got taken by the flying giant monster insects, um, she was questioning him like, what is he talking about? And he's like, I'll explain later. So I know we had talked about in a previous episode about how the Jedi had, you know, killed the witches, and now obviously with this, I am more inclined to agree with you in terms of they clearly did something that they were not supposed to do on that island.
Huh. So Scott might be right. Scott might be right.
It's a potential, yes.
It's not.
Clearly something happened.
Yeah. I mean, we knew something happened, and obviously they were behind it in some sort of capacity. The Jedi. However, we don't know the full extent. It's just speculation for now. However, during this, OSHA throws Pip on the stranger.
And like he said it with such attitude.
Because it is the master, and he is the master. So anyway,
So, actually, hold on. I'm going to counter your thing with the master. The talk online is that the Sith rule of two, there is always an apprentice and a master. The thought is that Quimir is actually the apprentice to another Sith Lord, and that he is was trying to take Mai as an apprentice to overthrow his master. And now obviously he's going towards Osha. But so the theory also is that his master is that people are thinking that his master is Darth Tananibus. I don't know how to say his name. So Darth Tanibus
Darth
is
Teeth.
Dark Teeth. Yes, that is his name. The theory is that his master, Darth Tanibus, is Darth Plagueis's master.
Here's the thing, I have no issue with any of it. It's just too much for my brain. Just because there's not many episodes left. Like I need it. I need some sort of connection or no connection. Like it can't be this big thrown out thing for me.
Don't forget, this is only season 1.
Also true. That being said, too, it looks like obviously my switch closed with OSHA to go with Soul, and it looks like the stranger, the master, whatever you want to call him, looks like he's going to take OSHA under his wing to some sort of capacity. My guess would be that he would assume, and I understand the assumption, that OSHA would have the same potential as Mai,
mm-hmm.
which would make sense. However, I don't know how true that is.
So yeah, they would have the same potential, especially because Osha might be a little bit more better trained because she was a Jedi, tried to be a Jedi, so he might. So my thought is that
6 years of her doing nothing, which is also another factor.
Also true. So my thought process is that now that he took Osha, he is going to tell Osha what Soul and the other Jedi did to turn her to the dark side.
Well, turn Mai to the dark side.
Osha.
Oh,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
already.
My apologies. You're right, because he knows who it is.
Yes.
Kojima tells me that Soul doesn't.
I think so. So I agree. I've seen some people commenting. Soul does know that it's.
But he's also not in the right state of mind right now.
If he doesn't know it's her, he's not in the right state of mind. He's just like in the.
I think he figures it out rather quickly once he starts to calm down. However, I think at this point in time, because of everything that's happened, he's not utilizing his senses properly because his senses are off.
Yep. Which I've been seeing people complain online about how like the Star Wars Disney haters about like, oh my God, how could they not realize that there was a Sith over there, a dark side user? They couldn't sense it, and then people are countering like, hey, do you remember the scene in the prequel series where the council members were in a meeting with the Dark Lord of the Sith? Like,
Well, also, Soul did feel it during the whole episode. He kept going like because he felt something, but he didn't know what it was. So like
hmm
Soul did. Like the thing that kills me is Soul actually did. However, he didn't know what he was feeling.
hmm
It clearly didn't make sense to him, which does track.
Yep.
And then it didn't make sense until he sees it, and then it's like, ooh. Then he just sees the big push of literally the big push, and then the fight ensues. Um, but no, I do agree with you that he's going to tell the story to Osha about what actually happened, or at least what Mai told him.
So we're gonna obviously now going forward. There's still some things that we have yet to see. We have yet to see the Whip's lightsaber. So we're gonna be coming. Where something like that is gonna happen. Will Soul tell the Jedi? What are the Jedi's going to be response? Because obviously we still have the prequel series where the Sith haven't been seen in a millennia. So clearly everybody is going to die. Um, or are they just going to try to cover it up because they don't want their political enemies finding out?
I think it's going to be combination of the two, because it's going to be one where we don't know he's actually a Sith because you said we would call him a Sith. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like I think that particular Jedi Master would manipulate that piece to be like, well, he says we might call him a Sith. That doesn't mean he is one. So he's not
hmm
claiming to be one. So it's not a Sith.
Yep.
And I know I know it's like pulling teeth on
Picking
that
at
one.
teeth, you know?
Yeah, like I mean, but like at the same time, it's like I do get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very curious of where it's going to go. I mean, honestly, I'm super excited about this next episode for sure. Um, Although I don't think it's going to be action packed, it's going to give us a lot of information. I think for sure, which I'm excited about because I do believe Mike is right, and we're going to see a flashback of what happened, at least the potential of what happened on the planet.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to discuss? I know there's been a lot of hate on this show, which I don't understand because it has been phenomenal.
It's been a phenomenal show. It has its moments where, like, for example, like some of the line delivery is like a little iffy, but
I agree, but I mean,
but
it's
and then keeping with the plot, like in episode 3, Mai wanted to kill all the Jedi. Episode 4, Mai wanted to turn herself in. She just had a change of heart. And now episode 5, in this episode, she no longer wanted to turn herself in. So it's like keep like the plot is kind of going up and down for like
just her because my whole
no, no, just her.
because
But
but my whole thing with that is she's being a typical dark side user. No offense.
she's scared. She's coward, and she's trying to
She's
care
playing.
about herself.
She 100%. So she's doing personally, in my opinion, she's doing the most like realistic thing in my opinion out of all things. I know that sounds weird to say, but it is true. Um, However, I do understand people's issues with it, but it made sense because she realized that like she thought she was only doing it because she thought her sister was dead. Then her sister
hmm
wasn't dead, and she's like, well, you know what? Let me try to figure a way out of this because I didn't really like what was going on anyway. Because I had a feeling she didn't like the master idea to begin with,
I mean, she wanted to overthrow the master in the long run, anyways. So,
like a Sith.
yep.
Um, so like nothing strange there. So overall, I think out of all the characters, she's been the most consistent with what we should be expecting of her.
Yeah.
Personally, I do understand how it feels quick, but it's literally based on the moment of what works best for you as a person, which to me makes the most amount of sense for her character and how she.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's going to be it for the acolyte, right? Are we moving on to our characters, my character spotlight, or is there anything else?
No, I mean, honestly, for the most part, that touches on everything.
Everything, and I think we went into detail. So, if we're going to go right into my character spotlight, we shall do so. It has to do with the teaser trailer that was released for Deadpool and Wolverine, the most recent one. So, who was introduced in that, Mike, that we know for a fact is going to be in this movie now?
Sabretooth.
No, Victor Creed. So, Victor Creed in 616 is is somebody who turns into Sabretooth. Um, you
What
hate
an
me.
ass.
So anyway, we're going to be talking about the history of Sabretooth. When we get to modern times, I'm going to do the abridged version for a very obvious reason because there's a lot to discuss, and I don't feel like going through an hour and a half of just Sabretooth. However, we're going to talk about his origins and go into this. Apparently, though, I will say this: he was introduced in 1977, which we will discuss on where that started and how it started, but later. And he's actually dead in the universe and has not been revived since his death, which I find very funny because he died in this year of May 2024, and there has been no thoughts of his resurrection yet. However, he has died in the past and come back, which we'll discuss a little bit, or been thought to have been dead and then come back to life. So just so you know on that piece, it's not all that unheard of that he comes back from the dead.
This is Marvel.
Yeah,
This
but
is comic books.
but right now he's dead and has been stayed dead since May, which I know has not been all that long. But you,
Been 2 months.
yeah, but I don't know when in May, so it might not have been a full 2 months. It might only be one, to be honest with you. But my point I'm making is, just so you know, like he's dead now. So when Victor Creed's mutation first manifested, he accidentally killed his brother over a piece of pie because that's what we do. Um, his father confined him to the cellar and would systematically pull out Victor's deal teeth, devil teeth, in an attempt to purge the boy of his demons. Victor was chained like an animal in the family cellar for years until one day he chewed off his own hand in order to break free, subsequently murdering his father. Although later he claimed to have killed his mother as well, he actually spared her and made sure that she lived in a comfortable life until she was diagnosed with cancer and confined to a hospital bed, where she was killed by a member of the Red Right Hand. Um, Freed from his parents, Victor was unleashed upon the society. At the age of 13, he reportedly rampaged across 3 Canadian provinces and killed at least 3 police officers. According to Creed, he remained in Canada and about 15 worked for the railroad, laying down rail from Calgary up to Yorkton. Among the workers on the line was a belligerent older man who delighted in picking on teenager Creed. Though the man had 100 pounds on him, Creed gutted him from crotch to Adam's apple with his claws. Yes, let that image be in your head because it's in mine. For years,
I mean, that's it. That image is in my head because of the horror movie that did the exact same thing.
Oh, that's right. For years, Victor maintained an annual tradition of torturing his younger brother Saul on his birthday, until one day his sister Clara told him that his brother had died and was now free from him. Victor quickly learned that his brother had died at the hands of a man named Logan, who might be somebody we all know. Wink, wink. He then
Nope.
decided, huh?
He said, nope, no idea.
Okay. Well, you're going to learn. He then decided to go on his revenge against his brother's killer and went after him. In 1909, he discovered that the serial killer had killed 3 people in as many months, which means in 3 months. After finding an unconscious Logan in the middle of the crime scene, Victor believed that Logan was the mysterious serial killer the police were after. Before the police arrived, Victor snatched the unconscious Logan from the crime scene and took him to Ravencroft Institute in Westchester County, where he was working as Nathaniel Essex' assistant. Essex lobotomized Logan, which put him in a comatose state. He then proceeded to cut Logan's left arm off, while Victor looked on in delight. One of the doctors, Claudia Russell, was able to free Logan and tried to help him escape. But on their way out, the duo was confronted by Victor. Victor threw Logan away and confronted Claudia, but Logan's healing factor kicked in and started to heal his brain, awakening him from his comatose state. Logan thrusted his claws into Victor's head through his lower jaw, but Victor was able to throw him aside once again. Knowing that Logan had no chance against Victor in his condition, Claudia begged him to escape while Victor was injured. Despite still being in his feral state because of his brain injury, Logan understood and agreed to escape. Before Victor could go after Logan, Claudia revealed to him that Logan was not responsible for the murders, which had happened during a full moon. She was actually the killer, and had committed the murders by accident because she transforms into a werewolf, where she transforms into a werewolf now and attacked the injured Victor. Victor was saved by Essex Essex, resulting in Claudia's capture, and Essex and Victor later experimented on Claudia and accidentally killed her during the process. They wanted to know what a werewolf does, so they started to torture her. Shocking, right? In the following years, Victor, now known as Sabretooth, supposedly joined the organization Mysterious Romulus and moved to Tokyo, Japan, where he murdered several women, but on one night during one of his rampages, he once again faced Logan. Logan, who had been extorted by a ninja sector known as the Hand into fighting Sabretooth. Now you know who the Hand is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the ninja group that Elektra was a part of.
Hmm.
Okay, good. During their fight, this is obviously before Elektra. During their fight, Logan was able to cut one of Sabretooth's hands off with his sword. Sabretooth was able to reattach it thanks to his healing factor, and to the surprise of Logan, of course. Sabretooth then defeated by Logan, who was impaled by his sword, but after Logan could finish him, their fight was stopped by Romulus, who knocked Logan out. Under Romulus's orders, Sabretooth then tracked Logan to a frontier community in the Canadian Rockies. There he brutally attacked Silver Fox, Logan's lover, where Sabretooth raped her and left her for dead, the first of many birthday surprises to come from Victor. Nothing like a birthday surprise like that, right? Enraged, Logan battled Sabretooth in a bar, which should sound very familiar, only to be defeated. Sabretooth then manipulated a feral, mindless Logan into believing that the people of the nearby town had ordered Silver Fox's death. This prompted Logan to slaughter the entire townspeople and with ease, and persuaded him that the townspeople are afraid of you and that they didn't want you around, so they got rid of the one thing that kept you there, which was Silver Fox.
Damn.
So, this in 1912, Sabretooth, under the orders of Romulus, took him up to Canada, where he met a man needing services, the man named Hudson. So this was in 1912. We're now getting into World Wars. In 1938, Victor was sent to Nanjing alongside Ogun and watched General Matsi enter the city. During World War II, Sabretooth worked for Romulus again, although through which he collaborated with the Nazis. His allegiance was purely transactional, however, because anybody who paid him the most amount of money, he would gladly join their side. So, assigned to a Nazi battalion, they were sent into the Italian Alps to confront Wolverine and Captain America in a fierce battle along two erstwhile foes face off again, aka Wolverine and Sabretooth fought each other. In a desperate move, Sabretooth hurled a grenade, causing Wolverine to plummet over a cliff and crash to the ground below, all while Romulus observed from the shadows. Sabretooth later served in the American military during the Korean War, moving to the island of Madripoor, which you do know, Madripoor, you know what that is, right?
That was from the
Yes.
movie.
No, it was the show. It was Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where the criminal country is.
Hmm.
All right, and moved to the island there after his time in the service. He apparently was part of the Avengers in 1959. Um, Apparently, Nick Fury created an Avengers team, which consisted of, and I don't know all the members of this, so bear with me, but two of which are well known characters we know now, which is Sabretooth and Kraven the Hunter.
Okay.
There were other people too that I can't really quite tell who they are, and it was in the 1950s, so I don't know who they actually were. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
I didn't look fully into it. I'm not going to lie to you. So anyway, their job was to hunt down an imposter Red Skull from reforming the remnants of the Nazi Party. So during all of that, they decided to fight their way through, and they ripped the head off of the Red Skull impersonator, which was not part of their orders. Their orders were to capture him, and Sabretooth got bored and wanted to slice off his head for fun,
Of course.
which also should not be all that shocking to anybody. We also had him in the 60s, mid 60s, join what was called Team X, which consisted of Victor Creed, John Rath, David North, and Logan. And they were part of a special Black Ops group where one of their missions was to steal carbanium synthesizer from the Soviet Union, which led them to face off against the Soviet mutant Omega Red. Basically, Sabretooth was a cold operative willing to sell out his teammates to save himself on the mission, which also shouldn't be all that shocking. But obviously, the rest of the team was able to escape. However, Sabretooth obviously sold out his team for his own purposes. In 1968, Creed made his way to Vietnam, taking jobs for the highest bidder no matter which side. He indulged his murderous urges in killing numerous prostitutes. He's got a thing for women and prostitutes, man. It's kind of scary.
Give me 2 minutes.
Why?
Have to do something that's kind of important.
Okay, hurry up.
Sorry. Yep.
Run faster. So I'm going to continue to talk anyway. Okay. So anyway, in Vietnam in 1968, he was taking jobs and doing things on both sides depending on who paid the most. While in Saigon, a man known as the White Devil was rumored to be involved in the disappearance of soldiers and locals. Creed was offered a job leading his own team of enforcers, which he happily accepted. After a dismantlement of the Team X, Logan and Victor reunited as friends. When Logan learned of anti-mutant forces within the government, Victor and Logan formed a team of rebel mutants, and Victor fell in love with a mutant known as Halo. This led him to become a better man, but on their last mission together, he was manipulated into killing her. This act led him down a dark path which would have lasted almost a century. So the very first time we actually see Sabretooth in the comics was actually against Iron Fist. Apparently, that was the first hero that Sabretooth ever fought. He obviously went against the Superman. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. My apologies. He also had been against the X-Men as well. He had joined the Martyrs by Gambit, which I believe was his first team he ever joined. Team X was reunited at certain points as well. He was a prisoner of the X-Men. He had also gone against the X Factor. And there's certain renditions of him that have adamantium infused bones, laced bones and claws. However, he does not have those in every rendition of him. However, he has had them in the past where it's been just his claws that have him, but he's also had adamantium claws like Wolverine. However, he has 4 of them instead of 3. So what I was talking about, Mike, was there's been.
I heard everything you said.
So I just want to reiterate the renditions of Sabretooth that some of them have had adamantium laced bones, but not all of them claws. So, like, as weird as it sounds, there's been renditions of him like having the bones in him, but they are not part of his claws. And then there's been others where he's had the claws, and then obviously the retractable claws like Wolverine.
Does Sabretooth have 4 or 5? Is it like?
So, what do you mean by that? Like when he's get the metal claws?
Well, because you were saying like Wolverine, instead of having 3, he has 4 for like his nails. Yeah. Like, is it 5 because he's including his thumb?
So that's his claws, but when he gets the claws like Wolverine, because he does get those in some renditions, he actually has 4.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. When you were saying he gets the claws, I thought you just adamantium claws. I thought you just meant like his fingernails were adamantium.
That does happen in some renditions, yes. But in the one I was talking about, he actually has the claws.
Okay.
And he has 4, which don't ask me why.
It has to be different.
Yeah, he has to be different. So anyway, he's obviously he's joined a lot of teams. He's gotten the he's done a lot of stuff that's been awful, to be honest with you. He's basically done whatever he can to survive himself. So he's joined the Brotherhood of Mutants, he's joined the Martyrs, he's joined many supervillain groups and hero groups to basically get himself better acquainted, or better alive, I guess the best way to phrase it. He's also gone toe to toe against Wolverine on so many occasions, it's been ridiculous. There is one rendition I would like to talk about where Sabretooth was actually a pet to Viper. Viper is a criminal mastermind where, in this part of the timeline, she captured and snatched Sabretooth from S.H.I.E.L.D. and took him back to Madripoor, imprisoned him, and kept him as a prisoner. When Logan decided to go there to learn more about the bounty on his head, he found a chained Sabretooth. Obviously, Logan came back from the dead. But anyway, Victor was forced to fight Logan on Viper's behalf. Without any healing factor, Wolverine didn't stand a chance against Sabretooth. However, and Sabretooth took out one of his eyes. However, Logan was saved by none other than Lady Deathstrike. As Lady Deathstrike was about to take the final blow to kill Victor, Logan asked her to spare his life, which I find very funny. Anyway, so he's joined a bunch of other teams as well. He's also been a part of the Avengers Unity division, which was apparently where they traveled to counter Earth with a team to find Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch to save them, which I find funny that Sabretooth was a part of that team. He was also part of a team called the Wolverines, which they went after the body of Wolverine stolen by Sinister. The rest of the team included X-23, Mystique, I think Daken, and there was one other person that I don't know off the top of my head. All going after to save Logan. We also have him joining Weapon H again. We have the Hunt for Wolverine, which I find is funny as well. This was during the zombie one, so bear with me on this one. After hearing reports that Logan might be alive, Sabretooth teamed up with Lady Deathstrike and Daken to investigate. The trio went to Maybell and discovered that the company named Sotir was conducting experiments there and resulted in the town was infested with zombies. Victor discovered that his healing factor wasn't working and that bites from those zombies could be lethal to him. On top of zombies, a Satorian kill team comprised of 2 soldiers attacked the trio. Much to Victor's surprise, one of the soldiers was revealed to be his dead son, Graydon Creed. While fighting Graydon, Victor discovered that his son wasn't fighting like he used to. He was only puppet controlled by somebody else and was only repeating the same words over and over, "You will be useful," to his father, obviously. After... Yep. Why is it not... Sorry, my screen's messing up. So while fighting, you will be useful. After Lady Deathstrike stabs Graydon in the neck, Sabretooth found a strange green glowing device responsible for suppressing his healing factor. Running out of time after learning that the town was about to be burned to the ground, Victor destroyed the device and resulted in his healing factor powers returning. The next day, Victor and Yuriko hijacked a car and left town. Because he wanted to be atoned for his sins, Victor contacted Kitty Pryde, and gave her the details of what happened in Maybell. And FYI, seeing the trio, Lady Deathstrike, Daken, and Sabretooth as zombies is terrifying, by the way. They're a scary bunch of people. He's also joined Weapon X-Force, which is not that surprising. He's fought in many wars, as we've discussed multiple times. And in the final bout of Sabretooth that we are aware of right now, Kroka was the final place that mutants had for freedom, basically. It was like the new version of Genosha, right? It was like the new version of it. So Sabretooth forced Wolverine to lead them into the underwater area of Kroka to forge his workshop by hypnotizing him into thinking that they were doing a Team X mission together. So Wolverine was brainwashed. Wink, wink. So anyway, having been warned by a telepathic distressed signal sent by Omega, the Exiles caught up with Sabretooth, who forced Wolverine to help him fight them. Sabretooth maimed Toad while Wolverine killed Melter, whose death broke Wolverine's out of his trance. While Wolverine was briefly stunned by his actions, Sabretooth revealed the treasure he needed Wolverine to help him acquire was Forge's neutralizer, which he promptly shot and depowered Wolverine with. Despite the loss of his healing factor, Wolverine put up a fight against Sabretooth, who resorted to using Omega to generate a psionic gun, which he used to shoot Wolverine in the head with. While Sabretooth hesitated due to his being disappointed with Wolverine's lack of fight, the surviving exiles caught up to them. Out of revenge of the atrocities Sabretooth forced him to commit, Kid Omega shot Sabretooth with a psychic blast, while Nikra used a killing seed previously given to by Cypher to use against Sabretooth, which quickly grew into a gigantic carnivorous plant that ensnared and devoured Sabretooth. While trapped inside the killing seed, Sabretooth was placed under a mental fantasy similar to the experience in the pit, which resembled the therapist's office where a projection of Cypher acted as a therapist and forced Sabretooth to mentally experience the abuse and deaths of many of his victims from their perspectives to help him feel remorseful for his actions. Instead, Sabretooth rejected Cypher's attempt to rehabilitate him and became basically excited by the memories of his victims, which gave him the strength to break free from the killing seed. Sabretooth ambushed Graydon, who had escaped from the dimension where he was trapped by Savage and Camo, but since betrayed him again. He killed his son by ripping out his heart and goading Wolverine, who was clad in adamantium armor and wielding a Murasaurus blade, which is the blade that what was the blade that cuts through and kills a healing factor, if I remember correctly. It's the blade that stops healing factors. It's a blade that's also killed Wolverine.
Mm.
And it also was to make up for his lost powers. In following him into the Croca jungles, Sabretooth led Wolverine to the pit and used his own mental connection to it to drag Wolverine into its depths, stripping him of his armor and sword and subjecting him to mental torture. Before he could finish off Wolverine, X-Force and the Exiles caught up to them, and Phoebe Cuckoo used her powers to break the connection between Sabretooth and the pit. Wolverine revealed that the adamantium armor actually restored his healing powers and recovered the blade. And after a long, vicious duel, Sabretooth was killed and dismembered by Wolverine and with his claws and the sword, avenging all the deaths and murders Sabretooth had committed. And that, my friends, was the end of Sabretooth, for now. So, he has enhanced mutant physiology. He's classified as a severe threat, which does make sense. Because his mutant ability alone does not make him a global threat. However, he can do a lot of damage. He has a regenerative healing factor. He has natural healing, which allows him virtual immunity to poisons, viruses, and diseases, and most drugs. He's fatigue resistant, and he has decelerated aging. He has superhuman senses. He has a great sense of sight, hearing, smell, and taste, which is so weird to think about. He has claws, fangs, superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, and enhanced reflexes and agility. He has had some former powers as well. He apparently has had the ability to be psychic resistant, but that has gone away, which I find interesting. That of all the things that he had before, that's the thing that has been taken away in the past. Anyway, he's an expert. His abilities are expert in hand-to-hand combat. He's a master tracker, cunning intelligence, expert marksman, avid manipulator, advanced covert ops specialist. He has a list of special skills, and he also has a weakness to the Murasaurus blade, carbanium poisoning, vulnerable to because of his heightened senses. His senses can be used against him because of that. He's also had memory issues and apparently drowning. Apparently, one of the few ways to kill Sabretooth is to cut the brain's oxygen supply, which means drowning him. Which out of all the things makes sense, but it's just surprising that that's on there.
I remember in the Wolverine movie, they or not no, it was in Days of Future Past. They mentioned about how like him drowning is a legitimate fear, if I remember.
Yeah, because he can. Yeah, the whole idea is it's just his brain just stops working.
Yeah.
However, the idea is his brain can, once it gets the oxygen, it potentially could come back. So also the other thing is that he could be killed by decapitation or severe spinal damage, which makes sense because that's where his healing factor is supposedly housed. So if that's damaged too severely, he might not be able to heal from it.
Mm. Okay.
And he
Cool.
also occasionally has adamantium lace skeleton. I say it that way because it's not all the time.
I mean,
And
like you said too, like sometimes he gets the adamantium, sometimes not. So
exactly. However, power scale grid is always out of 7. So let's talk about Sabretooth's power scale. His intelligence is a 2, which is considered normal. His strength is a 3 because it is peak human. His speed is a 2 because it's considered normal. His durability is a 4 because it's regenerative. His energy projection is a 1 because he has none. And his fighting skills are a 6 because he's a master of several forms of combat. And that, my friends, is Sabretooth. Now, I know this was a long episode, everyone, because a lot was needed to be covered here. However, next week we're going to be talking about the latest episode of My Adventures with Superman, the latest episode of The Boys, and the latest episode of The Acolyte. So for now, if you've made it this far, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Mike and I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, if you guys have anything that you'd like to express in the comments, please let us know because we do try to actually respond to you guys. Other than that, this is going to be Scott and Mike signing out of the Black Eel Podcast. Have a great night, everyone.